for Card Player TV, here with Tom Dwan. How's it going for you, Tom?
Pretty good.
So you're known as a big online poker player. You've been entering a lot of live tournaments lately, a lot of live cash games, but what actually got you started in poker?
I started playing online like 4.5 years ago.
And what prompted that? I
was just playing with my friends online and started realizing that I could make money there.
So how quickly did you ascend up in stakes?
I don't really know. I didn't sleep enough last night. That's a tough question.
I
guess it took me...
what did you start out playing? Like $5
I started out playing,
right?
yeah, like $6, because there was a $1 rake.
Oh.
They were hard to
kind
beat.
of beat, yeah.
And then within like 6 months, I was playing like $1, $2, sometimes $2, $4. And then I'd occasionally like take shots at 5-10.
Did you find the cash games be more profitable than the tournaments starting off?
Yeah, I mean, I only played tourneys for a little bit till I had enough money to play like 50-some $1. And then I just grinded that for a few months.
So what was most helpful in improving your game as you went up in levels? Like, what did you learn?
Just playing.
Just playing?
Yeah, playing, talking hands with my friends. That's definitely what improved my game the most.
And what was the time span between you starting and you reaching the levels where you play now?
When was the first time? I guess probably like 1.5 years ago was the first time I played. No, more. Maybe 2 years ago was the first time I played like 200, 400, but I wasn't playing it regularly. I was only playing when the games were really good or when I, for some reason, decided to gamble. So I guess, I mean, I'm still like moving up in levels somewhat.
All right.
As far as, like lately there's bigger and bigger games going.
That's true.
But after maybe 1.5 years or 2 years, I was pretty confident with my game and I knew I was going to be able to make a lot of money out of poker.
Well, what made you think that? When you first started, did you think that all people were that successful, or did you think you just like had
No,
a
I
knack
obviously
for it?
realized that a lot of people
are losing players. Like, what made you able to just rise to the top?
Applying yourself a little bit and playing and thinking about hands, you can do well enough to make an okay living at poker. And then after playing longer and longer, I realized that, you know, even at the higher levels, there's still a decent amount of money to be made. So I just tried to move up and improve my game, and it's worked so far.
Well, at the higher levels, the players are obviously better than the players that are playing lower stakes.
True, obviously.
The players have
There's
the experience.
exceptions.
True. So what really separates the winners from the losers in the high-stakes games? Like, what's that something that makes someone able to win?
Obviously not an easy question. If there was something that could be answered easily, then there'd be a ton of people sitting there making lots of money in high-stakes games.
And there wouldn't be losers anymore?
Yeah.
It's hard to think in my mind.
The closest I can come to answering that is saying that people who analyze the way they play and think about hands logically and better than the people they're playing against are going to generally make money. But I mean, that's a very vague way of saying there's no real easy answer to that. If there was, you know, a golden key of how to make money in high-stakes poker, then everyone would be doing that.
That makes sense.
But I guess the people that win at the high-stakes games, you know, think about the way they play a bit, think about the way their opponents play a lot, evaluate it all well, and don't tilt. And
how do you not go on tilt if you take a bad beat or something?
I mean, I've tilted some, but I try to generally like take breaks if I'm really worried that I'm going to be playing bad. You know, if I'm really, really running bad one day, I'll try to quit if I don't think games are good. But it's a hard thing to avoid, and it's a downfall of a lot of poker players.
Well, you've mentioned that you think live fields are a lot softer than online fields.
Right.
What do you think is the reasoning behind that?
People just enjoy playing in a live tournament and enjoy
they're almost there
gambling
to have fun.
it up. Yeah, there's most of the people playing online are doing it somewhat for fun, but also would like to make money.
Right.
Where there's a lot more people playing live poker who don't really have a desire to make money, can't imagine that they're going to win. They're just like, oh, I want to gamble, this seems fun, throw some chips in. And I think you see that a larger percentage of those people in a live field than an online field.
So this is your first year out at the World Series of Poker. What's your impression of the tournaments here?
I mean, so far it's been awesome.
You made
there's
two
a lot of
final
tourneys
tables
that
already.
I only made one, I think.
Well, one was, I think, in 8th place,
one I was on the
but
bubble.
it was kind of final table-esque.
Yeah. But there's a lot of awesome tourneys that have really good structures. And there's just so much money in the series that there's a lot of people gambling it up. It's a fun time. And there's a lot of opportunity in the various tourneys. I'm looking forward to tomorrow because I've never played the main event before, and I'm sure that'll be awesome.
Well, do you think it's possible for a really good player to really excel in a field that big? Like, what type of strategy helps you
I
get
think it's
through
obviously
it?
more likely that a good player excels than a bad player, but...
Do you have some kind of game plan for getting through a
it's
ridiculous field?
Well, I mean, you still need to get absurdly lucky
Of
to
course.
do well in that event, no matter how good you are. But I don't know, I'm just going to try to play every spot how I think is best and hope that I run well.
Well, you've played a lot of tournaments here at the World Series and a lot of mixed games. Have you always played mixed games, or did you start off as a strictly no-limit player?
Yeah, I started off strictly no limit, and then
When did you
2 years
branch
ago
out,
I
2
started
years
playing
ago?
PLO. But I haven't played like the limit games until maybe 6 months ago, other than just occasionally.
And what's the learning curve for a game like that? If you've already mastered no limit, does it take a long time to learn other games, or do the skills transfer
Well,
over?
when I started playing PLO, I kind of was lucky that not too many people knew how to play it very well. Whereas the limit games, a lot of people already obviously
Right.
know how to play very well. So PLO was somewhat easier to learn because I was learning with other people who were better than me at the time, but not by that much, didn't have that much experience on me just because not that many people played PLO 3 years ago. The limit games, it's definitely somewhat tougher, and I'm trying to be pretty careful about how I do it, but I've spent a decent amount of time in it.
Well, how do you go about learning the limit games?
I've just went over like a
playing?
bunch of hands with people I thought were good at limit, played a lot, practiced a bit, like talked hands with my friends. I don't know, so far it's worked out pretty well.
What skills transition really well from your no-limit expertise over to
Just
limit?
reading hands is the main thing.
Yeah. How do you put your opponent on a hand?
Well, I mean, you still can realize hand ranges and what someone's likely to have in various spots. So there's still a lot of similarities between limit poker and no-limit poker. I mean, there's still people are going to be aggressive players or tight players or
Right.
loose players, people who, you know, checkers bluff rivers or don't bluff rivers or anything like that.
You just have to keep track of all that.
Obviously, there's, you know, the problem that in some of the limit games, I'm not exactly sure what to do in some spots where I'm not used to that in no limit because that hasn't, you know, happened in a while where I have a lot of spots come up. You know, maybe it'll be like once every few days where I have a spot in no limit that I'm really, really, utterly confused. In the limit, I have those like once an hour where I'm sitting there like, what do I do? What is this game? Let's see. I guess I'll raise because that can never be too wrong in limit,
That's always the right decision.
basically.
So is that humbling to have to consider things more than maybe you do in other games?
Yeah,
I
probably.
mean, you've just like run over the high stakes no limit games for so long, and then to come into a game where you're not as familiar with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. It's more interesting in some ways with learning new games. I still really like Omaha because I'm still learning that, even though I'm obviously way better at that than I am at the limit games. But that's just a really, really complex game, like far more complex than the limit games or even no limit, I think.
Why do you say that?
There's just so many more, let's see how to phrase this. There's so many more situations that come up where your opponents
Specifically in
don't
PLO?
have, in PLO, where
Okay.
your opponents don't have very defined ranges. Whereas in no limit, a lot of times it's like someone's bluffing or they're not, and you need to figure out one of the two.
Okay.
And in PLO, a lot of times it's like, yeah, they either have a wrap or a flush draw, or a wrap and a flush draw, or two pair and a flush draw, or a
That's
set,
it, yeah.
or maybe they're bluffing with a wrap or a bad wrap, and you need to.
How do you
know
sort
the
through all
tendencies
that
of your
information? Like,
opponents.
what factors go into the decisions you're making when you're playing PLO?
I mean, that's why I think PLO is a much more interesting game because it's tough to sort through that. You need to know your opponent's tendencies and just play how you think is best first time, I guess.
And so is PLO, would you say that's your best game, or excuse me, your favorite game right now? Or your
Definitely my
best game?
favorite game.
Definitely your favorite game.
I mean, I'm better at no limit, I'm pretty sure, but versus most people, I'm better at PLO because like the average 5'10" no limit player, I don't think I'm much better at no limit than them. I mean, obviously, I'd be pretty happy to play them heads up generally and stuff, but there's not that many things I do different. Whereas the average 5'10" PLO player, I think there's so many things I do different that they just
at a much
like
higher
their mind would be
level.
boggled. I just think it's a much more complex game, so there's more intricacies. Whereas no limit, it's like maybe, you know, I 3-bet a few more hands than them, or maybe I 3-bet a
Okay.
few less hands, but there's still not that many things you can do different. I don't know, so I think PLO is just a more interesting game, and because of that, there's more skill difference, I guess you could say.
That makes sense. So now you're like about 5 years into your poker career, correct? You're 21, 4.5 years into your poker career. What games can you be found in on like a day-to-day basis? Where are you most comfortable?
I mean, I'll play any no limit or PLO.
Any stakes?
Yeah, basically. I mean, unless it's somehow absurdly high. And then the limit games I'll play depending on the lineup and how I'm feeling and what other games are going. Like, I wouldn't usually play just one limit game, but if there's a few good PLO games going, and there's a limit game that I think I might be breaking even in or not losing too much, I'll play it.
All right.
And sometimes I think I'm winning a little money in them. So
what's the biggest game you've ever played in?
Oh yeah, 1K, 2K PLO.
Okay.
That's definitely the biggest.
And
There's
what's
a few
it
that were
like
close,
to, I mean, did it ever phase you at all to play for such large sums of money? I mean, being such a young guy, you were in college a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
It must be mind-boggling at first.
I've had some crazy days in the last month or two.
I've heard about them.
Yeah.
What was the craziest?
I had one day I was stuck 860K online, and I ended up like 50K. So that was probably the craziest.
How do you
day.
deal with swings like that and like just keep your sanity?
I don't know. That was a tough day. That was a tough day. I was really close to quitting a bunch of different times.
Do you think you'll ever walk away from poker for good?
What do you mean for good?
Like stop playing as a pro and just
Just play
retire with your money,
recreationally?
and just like hang out.
I might at some
maybe
point
even
play
take
a
another
lot
career.
more recreationally
Yeah.
and take another career. I mean, it's pretty likely that I'm gonna like play the main event every year and play occasionally, because I do enjoy it sometimes. But I definitely play a lot more than I would if someone gave me like $100 million tomorrow. Because I play right now mainly to make money.
Okay.
And there's a lot of times I'm playing where I wish I was doing something else, but there's a game I think I'm making a lot of money in, so I play that instead. So definitely within a few years, I'd expect to play a lot less.
So what would you be doing if you weren't playing poker? Last question. I'll let you go, I swear. I know there's a
flipping
lot of good
burgers,
games going
saying,
on
do you
right
want
now.
that biggie sized? Something along those lines.
I could totally see that. Can we get a
I
little
think I'd be
McDonald's
good.
hat photoshopped on here?
Do you have one?
Thank you very much, Tom. It was good talking to you today.
All right.
Lizzie Harrison with Tom Dwan for Card Players.